All right, if you're a law student, you've had the IRAC formula drilled into you. But let's be honest, there's one letter in there that really separates the top grades from the rest, the A. This is where you stop just knowing the law and start using it. So today, we're going to figure out exactly how to write a killer application section.
Look, let's just get straight to the point. Your professor might not put it quite this bluntly, but this is the absolute truth. Knowing all the rules gets you in the door, but applying them is how you win the game. This is where you show you can think like a lawyer, and it's where this top-tier marks are either won or lost. So here's our game plan for today. We'll start with what application actually is and, just as important, what it isn't. Then I'm going to give you a core technique you can use every single time. We'll walk through a real example, talk about the common mistakes to avoid, and I'll leave you with one final tip to really lock in those marks.
Okay, so what is application? Well, at its heart, it's the bridge. It's the bridge you build between all that legal theory in your textbooks and the messy, real-world facts you get in a problem question. Here's the more textbook definition. Now, the keyword here is process. Application isn't some magic trick where you just announce a conclusion out of thin air. No, it's a visible, logical chain that connects the abstract rule to the concrete facts of your case.
When you boil it all down, your application section has to answer this one single question for your examiner. It's not enough to say what the law is. You have to explain what it means, what its consequences are for the specific people in that specific scenario. This is exactly what they're looking for.
Okay, so we know what it is, but it's just as crucial to know what application is not. So many students fall into these really common traps, and they end up writing pages and pages that earn almost no marks because they're not actually doing the right kind of work. So let's look at what to avoid.
This slide says it all, really. On the right, that's the stuff that gets you 0 points. Repeating facts? You're just copying the question. Rewriting the rule? You already did that in the R section. And just stating a conclusion? That's like telling us the final score of a game without describing any of the plays. The real work, the stuff on the left, is all about the process, analyzing, explaining, and comparing.
So how do we actually do it right? Well, the great news is there's a simple, repeatable technique you can use to build your reasoning bit by bit. Think of it like a recipe you can follow every time to get it right. Let's call this the analytical loop. It's a really simple 3-step dance. Step 1, take one single requirement from the legal rule. Step 2, pinpoint the exact fact from the scenario that relates to it. And step 3, now this is the most important part, you explain why. Why does that fact meet the requirement or why doesn't it? That explanation right there, that is your application.
And to help you build that explanation, these phrases are your best friend. They literally force you to spell out your reasoning. And notice how they're not set in stone? Phrases like "this suggests that," or "however it may be argued that," show you're thinking like a lawyer, weighing possibilities, not just jumping to a certain conclusion. It's way more impressive. All right, theory's one thing, but let's see this thing in action. We're going to walk through a simple UK contract law problem, step by step, using our little analytical loop. Okay, here's our scenario. It's designed to be simple, but there's a catch. We've got an offer sent by a really fast method, email. But the acceptance comes back by a really slow method, the post. So the big legal question is, when, if at all, was this acceptance actually valid?
Okay, let's kick off the loop. Step 1, isolate one piece of the rule. We'll start with the big general principle. For an acceptance to be valid, it has to be communicated.
Now for step 2, link it to a specific fact. The crucial fact here is the mismatch in how they're communicating. An email offer gets a postal acceptance.
And here we go, step 3, the reasoning. This is where we connect the dots. We explain why the fact matters. Using the post is a big deal because it's so much slower than the email used for the offer. This directly calls into question whether the acceptance was communicated properly. See how we explain the why? That's the money shot. But hold on, great legal analysis doesn't just stop there. We have to look at the other side of the coin. So we bring in the relevant exception, the famous postal rule, which says acceptance is valid the moment you stick it in the post box. And now we complete the analysis. We argue why the postal rule might not even apply in this situation. It could be seen as totally unreasonable to use snail mail to accept a near instantaneous email offer. This right here is the high-level analysis that examiners are dying to see. You're not just listing rules, you're questioning whether they even fit the specific facts. So what's the big lesson from that little exercise? It's this. Legal rules are your tools. The facts are your raw materials, and your job is to show the examiner exactly how you're using that tool on that material. The golden rule is to make the link between the rule and the fact super obvious every single time.
Okay, let's switch gears and quickly run through a few classic mistakes. Seriously, knowing what examiners are trained to spot and penalize can give you a massive advantage in any exam.
Here are 4 big ones. First, please never write, "This applies because," and then just repeat a fact. Second, you have to argue against yourself a bit. Deal with the facts that don't fit your argument. It shows confidence. Third, this isn't story time, it's a forensic analysis. And finally, don't rush to the conclusion. All the value is in the journey, not the destination.
We're almost done. I've saved probably the single most important structural tip I can give you for your exam answers for last. Just look at this chart. This tells you everything you need to know about where to spend your time and energy. Your application should be by far the biggest section of your answer. We're talking like 60%. Here's a quick check. If your rule section is longer than your application, you've got a serious problem. You're just describing your tools instead of actually using them.
At the end of the day, just remember this. In most problem questions, there isn't one perfect right answer. The examiner is not testing your psychic abilities. They are testing your ability to reason like a lawyer. They want to see how you think, and the application section is where you show them.
And that's our final thought. Your reasoning is valuable. Your analysis is what earns the grade. So don't hide it behind vague statements or premature conclusions. Put it all out there on the page, clearly and confidently, for the examiner to see.